Shifting Gears with Alan Bailey.
I really enjoy the smell of burnt rubber and race fuel in the morning. Sue me.
Whether it's NASCAR, IndyCar, NHRA drag racing, or AMA Supercross, we've got it.
I'm going to be unapologetic. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm going to tell it like it is, whether you like it or not. Get over it.
Grab a gear and let's go.
Well, it's time to go already? Really?
You're Shifting Gears on ARN. Here's Alan Bailey.
It's another Hump Day show. Welcome on in. It is Wednesday, June 18th, 2014. Coming up today on Shifting Gears, well, a lot. NASCAR going off-road racing. Kinda, not really. It's the closest thing NASCAR gets to off-road racing, actually. Road course racing up in Northern California, wine country, Sonoma Valley. They're heading up there. Going to be road course racing this weekend. NASCAR Nationwide taking off to Road America. Bit of an off weekend, actually, as yes, it is not a race weekend for IndyCar, but they're up in Pocono testing for their upcoming race over there, so we're going to be taking you out to the track, hearing from some of the drivers, breaking down everything that happened at the Tricky Triangle for the open wheel fellas. In drag racing, yep, it's the Auto Plus NHRA New England Nationals coming at you this weekend. We'll check in with one famous rookie and how her second time out there might be a little bit of an epic weekend we'll break it down for you. And, oh yeah, an interesting story about one 20-something-year-old who broke onto a race course in England with his girlfriend's Golf. His girlfriend's Volkswagen Golf. And yes, we have the onboard audio. It gets a little intense, a little graphic, and a whole lot of awkwardly funny moments. We'll have the entire conversation, the entire everything, because as the local announcer put it,
that's not quite right, is it?
No, it's not, but it was pretty darn funny, and yes, that is the actual announcer audio right there. Pretty darn funny. We'll have it for you a little bit later on in the program. I'm getting ahead of myself. We need to catch up on all of our news and notes, and the only way to do that is with our Hot Topics. Over the weekend, Jimmy Johnson made it 5 in a row for Hendrick Motorsports. Yeah, he won out in Michigan the day after Father's Day, and oh, by the way, that was the 5th win for Hendrick. 5th win in a row. Jimmy Johnson's 3rd win out of the last 4 weeks in NASCAR Sprint Cup Series competition, and his very first win up in the Irish Hills of Michigan, and that number 48 Cobalt Tools Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. Also in the world of NASCAR, since we're talking NASCAR, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, Michael Annett, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. are all entered in the K&N Pro Series West race at Sonoma Raceway this weekend. They're seeking additional road course experience before Sunday's Sprint Cup race up there. There are 43 teams on the entry list, including Boris Ed, Alex Kennedy, Joe Nemechek, and Michael McDowell, just to name a few of the go-or-go-homers that, oh, by the way, have to qualify on speed, but since there's only 43 people up there, everybody's going to make the race. And speaking of Sonoma Raceway, Toyota Motor Sales USA and the Northern California Toyota dealers have signed a multiple-year agreement to continue as the co-sponsor of the annual NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at Sonoma. Toyota has served as the co-title sponsor of the Toyota Save Mart 350 since 2007, as well as the official raceway vehicle. And in 2014, Toyota will be marking its 10th year in participating in NASCAR competition. It's already been 2 years. Crazy. And Marcus Ambrose, who, by the way, is a favorite going into this weekend up in Sonoma, actually got a chance to sit down and talk with media members earlier today in a NASCAR teleconference, asking and talking about his contract with Richard Petty Motorsports next season. And they're asking, well, are you staying in NASCAR? Are you looking to renew? And he replied with, quote, Yeah, certainly that's right. I'm in the renewal year with Richard Petty Motorsports for 2015. I'm not really thinking about it myself here. I just want the best for Richard Petty Motorsports. They have decisions to make along the way here. I want to help them make their decisions and be where they want me to be. I haven't really thought about anything much but that. I want to make sure that Richard Petty Motorsports are on the right path, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure I can help them out in order to do that. Unquote. So it looks like Ambrose is a loyal Petty supporter and a Petty driver. We're expecting him to re-sign with them within the next coming months. And 7-Eleven sponsoring Boris Said in the number 32 this weekend, with American Gas as the primary sponsor on that number 32 car, owned by FAS Racing, and driver Boris Said to be racing at Sonoma this weekend. And don't look now, but Jeff Gordon not going to be retiring anytime soon. At least that's what the indication is after an announcement that Jeff Gordon has partnered with Panasonic to be the primary sponsor on his number 24 Chevrolet for 2 races in 2014, and the agreement also covers the 2014, 15, and 16 NASCAR seasons, which means Jeff Gordon will be racing until at least the end of the 2016 season. Retirement? No thanks. That's what Jeff Gordon is saying with this announcement. And also, kind of an interesting side news here, Sprint might not be Sprint in the near future. If the company doesn't want to keep its name, it may have to pay a pretty penny if Sprint merges with T-Mobile, and it's expected to in the next coming weeks here. According to a report from CNBC, not only does the deal look like it will go through, but if it doesn't, Sprint will have to pony up a hefty $2 billion to T-Mobile. And that indicates that T-Mobile might become the new naming brand for Sprint and the new T-Mobile merger company, which means NASCAR's title sponsor, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, could become the NASCAR T-Mobile Series as early as 2015. More on this story a little later on in the program. And yes, sponsorship news, more sponsorship news. Comcast Xfinity looking to be the title sponsor for the NASCAR, what is now the NASCAR Nationwide Series, as Nationwide will be stepping down as the title sponsor of NASCAR's second-tiered series. They've been the title sponsor since 2007, but they're in their final year, and they've already announced that they're going to be sponsoring Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2015 and beyond, which frees up that title sponsor in NASCAR's second-tiered series. Comcast Xfinity is now the lead sponsor in the negotiations with NASCAR, according to sources familiar with the situation and with NASCAR. But NASCAR, it is confirmed that they also have had conversations with a number of other sponsors, including Advance Auto Parts and AutoZone. Nationwide Insurance is spending approximately $10 million in writing fees for the series sponsorship, and in total, NASCAR is looking to ask anywhere from $12 to $15 million per year for the series title sponsorship. And yes, that does include a number of different things. What is Comcast Xfinity? Well, it's Comcast's streaming service that has a number of different subscribers already. The reported total that they bring in yearly is over $25 million in the company, just with the Xfinity package, not the Comcast package. Pretty hefty numbers. We'll keep you posted on this one. Looking in the world of open wheel, Pocono was the place, and tire testing at the Tricky Triangle definitely was the name of the game for open wheel cars this weekend. In aim of learning the Tricky Triangle, Justin Wilson, Carlos Havas shared Pocono Raceway with Team Penske's Helio Castroneves, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Will Power in preparation for next month's Pocono IndyCar 500. The driver who may have benefited the most from the June 17th test was Montoya, who raced 14 times at Pocono Raceway in a stock car, winning the pole in 2012 and finishing second in the August race of 2009. He told the media, quote, "It's a huge difference. Here's the only place on NASCAR overs where you have to downshift. and we run pretty much wide open all the way around. It's unbelievable. It's challenging because there are 3 corners and all are very different, unquote. The second day of the test is set for Thursday and will have a larger congruent of drivers, including 4 from the Andretti Autosport team that include 2014 Indy 500 winner Ryan Hunter-Reay and Nazareth native Marco Andretti. Other teams are expected at the test include Ram Letterman Racing, Ed Carpenter Racing, KV Racing Technology. The session will begin at a roughly 9 a.m. local time and will be open to the public, but only the main grandstand at the Pocono Raceway. Head on out if you're looking for a test tomorrow, that's Thursday, out at the Pocono Raceway. And in the NHRA, a number of different things, but something that is pretty darn cool. In 1983, the Chevy Performance USA Nationals and Kenny Bernstein put on one of the most dominating funny car performances in NHRA history. That was then, this is now. On Sunday, he drove his Budweiser-sponsored Mercury to the win in a lucrative Big Bud shootout in an all-star race that showed the sport's quickest funny car teams. Then in Monday's U.S. Nationals, they will remember and honor as a salute to Bernstein will be doubled down in the 60th annual USA Nationals. Pretty cool. You can log on to arnrace.com in order to check out the full story, and you can check out everything that's coming up this weekend. We'll head out to the track. We will talk a little NHRA drag racing from New England, plus we'll talk about everything that's happening when NASCAR goes right and left. It's not just a simple turning the wheel, believe it or not. A lot has to happen to these race cars. We'll break it all down. Plus, who's our favorite in NASCAR this weekend? Plus, we'll take a look at the racing calendar with a silly season update. Go nowhere, my friends. You're shifting gears right here on ARN, the American Racing Network.
That's not quite right, is it?
This is ARN, the American Racing Network.
I'm not sure if you know, but a lot of people are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if I'm speaking a foreign language to you right now, don't worry. A lot of people have trouble with it, but you should not be one of them. If you're looking to get your business online, and if you're looking to build a stronger web presence online in order to build more customers and to sell more product, log on to apolloaesthetics.com. Not only will they help build a brand new custom website for you, but they'll help set you up with Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts in order to build your customer base and get your product out there for people to see. Everyone's online and everyone has a smartphone. Does that free custom website that you can build really work on an iPod or an iPad? Well, Apollo Aesthetics build websites that not only are capable of working, but work with all kinds of smartphones and mobile devices. Log on to apolloaesthetics.com not only to see all the services that they offer, but to request a quote to get your business online today. It's apolloaesthetics.com.
The odds of having a boy who grows up loving baseball,
1 in 6.
which earns him a college scholarship,
1 in 2,500.
that gets him a contract in the minors,
1 in 3,700.
which leads to starting shortstop in the majors.
1 in 290,000.
The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism,
1 in 150. You know the odds. Now learn the signs. Go to autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
What is one NASCAR Unites wristband capable of doing? It can inspire a child to go farther in school. It can construct a brand new playground for kids who've never had one. It can introduce a child with a serious illness to his or her favorite NASCAR driver.
I'm Tony Stewart, and I wear my band to Unite for Kids. Band together with me by logging on to www.nascar.com/unites to pledge your support.
The Pit Pass.
Did you really think that Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus were going to be sitting with their thumbs up their bums watching everybody in the chase? No. They go out there, they win back-to-back at Charlotte and Dover. Of course they're going to contend for a championship in 2014. If you think that they're not, you're an idiot. I don't care what you say. Guess what? The guy has won 6 titles. Bound to win a 7th, and it might be this year. He's the greatest driver in NASCAR history, period.
The Pit Pass, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern on ARN. Shifting Gears on ARN is presented by Stash Feed. Get the feed. Log on to stashfeed.com, your daily manly feed. Your Shifting Gears on ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Here's Alan Bailey.
Alan, I like Carl, but he's way too inconsistent. Maybe it's the team or the equipment, but I'd like to see what he can do in better equipment. No finishing second in points one year to only finishing 16th the next. That's coming from Chris on Facebook. Yeah, talking about Carl Edwards in NASCAR, his contract's up at the end of the 2014 season. The last time he went to renew a contract with Jack Roush, Roush had to go to Ford, the Ford Motor Company, and say, hey, can I please have a check for $100 and something million so I can give it to Carl Edwards? And Ford gave it to him. Jack can't afford Carl Edwards, and he can't afford his teammate Greg Biffle. Both are in contract years. Both need to be either re-signed or find new rides for 2015. I think they're going to re-sign Biffle. It's a story we've been following very heavily on the Pit Pass, the NASCAR program here on Monday nights, and it's definitely the norm for Edwards to look for a ride. He came very, very, very close to signing with Gibbs a few years ago when his contract was up, and it took Ford stepping in to say, hey, here's a blank check, stay in a Ford, to say it. And the reason Ford did that, there was no other option. It was either be in a Roush Ford or go drive a Toyota. And Ford wanted him, so basically Ford went, well, we know Jack sucks, but here's a giant paycheck so you could stay in a Ford, at least for the time being, so you can help push Ford. And that's what Carl did. He was a lawyer soldier, and he went ahead and took the check and basically stood up in front and said, yeah, these Fords are fast. Oh, by the way, they haven't won a whole lot of races this year. Roush Fenway's been doing pretty crappy the last couple of seasons, and the only win that Edwards has had realistically in the last year came at Bristol, a race that ended under a red flag condition for rain, in which a number of cars crashed out due to the weather. Race that saw a number of caution and red flags because of the weather, and a track that had ever-changing conditions, so cars weren't consistent. Essentially, Edwards was just the first poor soul that made it to the start-finish line first. I don't necessarily credit him with a win at Bristol. I credit him with surviving Bristol for that one, and I truly think it was driver who won that race, not so much car and crew, because crew didn't have the best pit stops that day, and they continue to not have the best pit stops in NASCAR, and it's a continuing cycle. You look at the Roush-Yates engine package. Well, Keselowski stood up and said over the weekend, yeah, we're down on power. Those Hendrick engines are faster than ours. A lot of those guys are, because our engine program still has catching up to do. Our cars are good, but our engines aren't, and you could tell over the weekend. Hendrick's miles ahead of everybody else in the engine department, and I'm not saying they're doing something illegal. I'm saying that they're that good. And I think Carl sees it. I think everyone in a Ford and everybody in the garage area who isn't blind can see it. So it's a matter of, is Carl going to re-sign with a team he knows he won't be competitive in ever? And he's been in that car for almost 10 years now. I think he knows he's not going to be competitive. I think he's given enough time at Roush to say, yeah, you know what? You guys suck. Yeah. I was here when we had 5 cars, 4 cars, and now 3 cars. Doesn't matter how many cars are here. You guys suck. You guys don't have the resources. You guys clearly don't have the people with the knowledge in the right positions. I'm going to go ahead and leave and drive another car. I don't care what it is. I don't care Ford. I'm leaving. Bye, Jack. That's essentially what's going to happen this year. And supposedly Edwards turned down an RCR ride for next season already. That's the rumor that was circulating in the garage area at Michigan. But you look at it, really, when you look at it, Edwards supposedly turned down RCR, a fourth RCR car for next season. Edwards supposedly isn't going to be sticking with Ford because the other Ford team that he would realistically go to, Penske, said, no, we're not interested in that whole Carl Edwards guy. He's got a contract. No. To me, that was basically all but saying, yeah, we're talking to Edwards. Roger Penske's a businessman. I kind of would like to see him stay with Ford because I think he's a good face for Ford, but on the other hand, he's got to do what he needs to do. He's getting older. He's going to realistically figure out, okay, I spent a decade with Roush. Where do I want to spend the next decade? Do I want to spend it at Roush and continue to not win the chase and to barely make the chase and to, as Chris on Facebook put it, finishing second in points one year to finishing 16th the next? I don't know. Another one here from Akin. It says, well, a Penske car would have won the last 5 races. Pocono, where Brad was leading and had trash on his grill. Penske made a great choice switching back to Ford and hiring Logano. Honestly, I think Carl goes to Penske, even if they say that they're not interested. Remember when Petty left Dodge, they kept saying they were switching to Chevy or possibly Toyota, only to fool everyone to go to Ford. Very good point. Very, very, very good point. Honestly, I think what it is it's a contract thing. I think that Roush put something in the contracts for their drivers saying you can't announce re-signing with a team or talking with a team or even put it out there yourself, or even the other team can't talk about it until X date. And X date is within the next month here. And that's what we've seen from the last 2 drivers that have left Jack Roush. So I think within the next month or 2 here, we're really going to know where Carl Edwards stands. I think he's going to end up in a third Penske car. Penske has the resources. They've been running a partial third car for a while now. They really, really, really have the resources. They have some sponsorship dollars for a partial third car as it is. I'm willing to bet that if you have a powerhouse like Carl Edwards come over, that a few sponsors are going to stand up and go, you know what, we're interested in running Sprint Cup next season with this whole Carl Edwards kid. We think he has something to do with a winning program. And you look at it, Penske's been unloading really, really good all season. Really good. It's just they can't keep up with the racetrack. Bad luck happens. Joey Logano, I firmly believe, would have 4 wins if it weren't for bad luck this season, and same with Brad Keselowski. They just need to keep up with the racetracks, and in some cases, they just simply got outraced. There's no other way to put it. And sometimes that's something that you just realistically can't control, and you need to basically forget about it and move on. And a couple people like Chris and like Akin on Facebook are remembering all of these moments and just going from there. This one coming from Jeff on Facebook. I pray he stays with Ford and ends up at Penske. They've had some of the fastest cars every week. Yeah, I'll give you that, but at the same time, the last 5 weeks, literally, the last 5 weeks, last 5 races have gone to Hendrick Chevys. And I don't think Ford has fast cars. They can't stop these Hendrick Chevys. It's kind of a dominance thing that's going on right now with Hendrick and Chevy right now in the Cup Series. I don't know if you've noticed. So all the Ford diehards are standing up going, Ford's the fastest! Ford's the fastest! Ford knows what they're doing! We know Ford, man! That's all great and fun. I love people who are loyal to their brands, but at the same time, I go off facts. I basically find these facts that are factually correct. Facts. Ooh, facts. I find these facts that are factually correct, and yes, I know what I just said. I find these facts that are factually correct, and I base my opinion solely off the facts and not some blind loyalty towards a certain brand. If Chevy's doing good, which they are right now, the last 5 wins have gone to Chevy, then I'm going to tell you, well, Chevy's dominating right now. They have very fast cars. If Ford goes on a 10-race win streak and wins the next 10 races, I'm going to tell you Ford's doing pretty good. And if Toyota goes on a 10-race losing streak, I'm going to tell you Toyota needs to get their stuff together. That's what it boils down to. It boils down to how you were in the last race, period. If you had a car that was a DNF car and that was running near the back, guess what? You have a lot of work to do. If you're a car that led the most laps and that went on to win the race last weekend, you need to keep up the good work. That's what it boils down to. And right now, Ford, Jack Roush, Roger Penske, clearly all of them have a lot of work to do. I don't know. We'll honestly see what happens. It's kind of a waiting game. It's kind of a shut up and just do it. And it's a little bit of both in the meantime. What I do want to tell you is that Tony Stewart, he got into a crash at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway yesterday. He was uninjured in that crash on Tuesday at the Indy Speedway out there, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, sorry. A team spokesperson said Stewart was, quote, fine, unquote. The Indianapolis TV station WISH reported on its website that Stewart was not transported by paramedics but was in contact with NASCAR medical personnel. Stewart hit the turn one wall, according to the report. Stewart crashed after a tire went down and he was testing tires on Monday and Tuesday with Ryan Newman, Greg Biffle, Clint Boyer, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch. The three-time series champ Stewart has won at the Brickyard twice. Stewart is 16th in points right now, heading into Sunday's race out at Sonoma. He missed the final 15 races last season after he broke his leg in that horrific sprint car crash last August, went through rehabilitation, and at this moment, Tony Stewart himself said that he is still not 100% recovered from that crash almost a year ago. So you got to wonder, stuff like this, it's very dangerous, for him, but it's also eye-opening. Does Stewart really need to be in the car in instances like this with tire tests and things like this? Maybe not. It's beneficial to the team. It's beneficial to him when they get back to that location. It's beneficial to Goodyear. However, it's not beneficial to Tony on a personal level and for his personal health. At some point, you got to step back and think, okay, what do I need as a person? What do I need as a driver? Yes, the team thing to do would be to just suck it up and get back in that race car and stay in that race car. Yet at the same time, if he re-injures his leg, realistically, he could lose it. And I'm not exaggerating, I'm not enveloping, I'm simply saying he came very close to losing his leg a year ago. If he were to go through another serious crash, another serious trauma like that to that same leg, it might not be there, period. And then Tony Stewart's driving career is more than likely over. That's something that Tony needs to seriously consider, and I can guarantee you that they're evaluating their testing, their personal appearances, everything that they do at any given racetrack and race weekend with his schedule. A challenge for him will be this road course because he's pretty used to throwing that leg weight, and I'm using leg weight because that's the best way to describe it, the weight of your body, the weight of your physical leg, your leg's weight up on one side of the race car when you're turning left. And that's what Tony Stewart's been doing all season. But now going to Sonoma, you're going to be making right and left-hand turns on the road course. You're going to be downshifting. You're going to be upshifting. You're going to be going through some pretty drastic G's and elevation changes on this race course. So realistically, you have to step back if you're Tony Stewart and Stewart-Haas Racing and think, can Stewart honestly make it through this race? I do not doubt his toughness. I do not doubt his ability to wield a race car. I'm wondering if he can physically hang on to that racetrack and physically what this racetrack is going to do to him. I'm keeping my eye on him on Sunday. I truly don't know if he's ready for this kind of test on that leg, but you know what? He made it through 600 miles, give or take, out at Charlotte a few weeks ago, and that was pretty physically demanding as well, so Tony Stewart might be up to the challenge, but it'd be very interesting to see if they have a standby driver on Sunday for Stewart in the event that he physically is unable to continue driving that race car. On that note, we're going to go ahead and step aside. When we return, I promise you, promise, that we will be talking about drag racing. They're heading up for the Auto Plus NHRA New England Nationals this weekend, plus NASCAR Nationwide Series heading to Road America for the Johnsonville Sausage 200. And oh, by the way, IndyCar test out in Pocono, why Juan Pablo Montoya might be winning that race and why he might have a huge winning edge over everyone. Plus that story that I promised you at the top of the show, we're going to be getting to it a little bit later on, how one guy took his girlfriend's Volkswagen Golf out onto a race course during an actual race in England over the weekend, and why is he arrested a couple of days later, and what did they pop him for? Plus, we have the in-car audio from his joyride. Whoa, yeah, it gets interesting. Don't go anywhere. You're shifting gears right here on ARN.
This is ARN, the American Racing Network.
Newsflash, it's 2014. It's time to get your business online. Log on to apolloaesthetics.com in order to request a quote to not only build your website, but to set up your custom email and to set up your hosting, your social media, and more. They can also help market and brand your products in order to get more customers, in order to sell product and get it flying out the door. Log on to apolloaesthetics.com right now to request a quote to get all of these services done and a whole lot more. That's apolloaesthetics.com.
Army Specialist Andrew Pike became paralyzed while serving in Iraq.
My injury was a gunshot wound to the left abdomen from a sniper. My first contact with paralyzed veterans was in Walter Reed.
Paralyzed veterans and National Service Officer Michael Killen.
We try to reassure them what benefits are out there, try to educate them and take some of that stress away from them.
Right now I'm going back to school to earn a degree, and I'm just spending time with my wife and child.
You can help our paralyzed veterans. Visit pva.org.
What is one NASCAR Unites wristband capable of doing? It can inspire a child to go farther in school. It can construct a brand new playground for kids who've never had one. It can introduce a child with a serious illness to his or her favorite NASCAR driver.
I'm Tony Stewart, and I wear my band to Unite for Kids. Band together with me by logging on to www.nascar.com/unites to pledge your support.
And now we have your top 5 moments from the weekend that was out at Gateway and Michigan. And yeah, we saw some great racing out in Gateway. And yeah, Father's Day at Michigan. And yeah, we kick it off with number 5.
Big crash here. Dylan Kwasniewski and Trevor Bain.
Oh my. Kwasniewski's car destroyed in the back. He's hit something hard.
Every week. What do we got here, guys? Yeah. 4 wrecks by the 31. Bad.
Number 4.
Eric Jones has the lead as they come out of turn number 2. Little bobble for him, and around goes Eric Jones.
Karoga turned Eric Jones around.
Caution comes out, running down pit road.
I've got a feeling they may be looking for the pit of the 77 or Mount Karoga.
Yeah, the official's trying to slow him down.
Number 3.
Checker flag for Paul Menard, the winner.
Hell of a job, boys. Hell of a job.
Number 2.
Coming out of turn number 4. Will he have enough room? Darrell Wallace Jr. is going to hold him off. Darrell Wallace Jr. wins again in the Truck Series.
And number 1.
You can cross Michigan off the list. The 6-time champion going to get his first Michigan trophy this afternoon.
Thank you, boys. Thank you. Chad, brilliant strategy, brother.
Shifting Gears on ARN is presented by Apollo Aesthetics. Log on to Apollo Aesthetics to start building your new website today. You're Shifting Gears on ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Here's Alan Bailey.
I told you we'll talk NHRA, which we will in a second. First, I want to give you this update. F1 racing legend Michael Schumacher no longer in his coma. Excellent news here. He's also left the French hospital where he had been receiving treatment since that ski accident that he was involved in late December, according to his manager earlier this week. He left the hospital to, quote, continue his long phase of rehabilitation, according to his manager in a written statement. She did not say when he was released or where the 7-time F1 champ was taken or given further details on his condition, and her office refused to elaborate on the statement. So they're being very vague, But I will say this, it's excellent news. It's amazing news, actually. The fact that he's out of the coma, that he has left the hospital, we don't know how or to what capacity, whether it's even in a wheelchair, that's something. It truly is something, because at one point it was questionable if he was going to wake up from this coma. It was medically induced, but when they went to wake him up, it didn't really work so well. And to be very clear, and this is something that maybe some people don't know, people are placed into medically induced comas all the time, and they are awakened from comas all the time. It's a common practice when it comes to the healthcare profession for somebody who's been in a serious trauma. Michael was in a serious trauma. They put him in that medically induced coma, but then they kept him under because his condition declined, and when it came back up, they went to wake him up, and it didn't really work out too well for Michael. He didn't wake up, so it became a question of, is he going to wake up, because his injuries were so severe, his head trauma from the skiing accident. So the fact that he's up and at him is truly a miracle. Very happy for him and his family. Our thoughts and our prayers are with him and his family in this time. We are going to respect his privacy at this time, and we ask that you, the fans, and that the rest of our media our colleagues do as well. Please don't pilfer them. Please don't bug them. Let them basically handle Michael's health right now and work with Michael to get him back to 100%, because that is the ultimate goal. Give them their privacy, I beg of you. And that's what we will do. It's truly is amazing, because at one point the 45-year-old German looked like he, like I said, wasn't going to wake up. His wife even was getting quotes and talking with construction and contract workers to build a hospital wing in their mansion in order to have a bed and healthcare professionals on site, and to bring medical equipment in so that he can be home and be monitored by doctors in his home. So the fact that he left the hospital, and presumably, we don't know this for a fact, but we're presuming that he doesn't need that much or that intensive of care where he's in a hospital bed and confined to a bed with doctors and machines and all this keeping him alive. We don't know any of that at this point. We're hoping that's not the case, but the fact that he is home, or that he has been released from the hospital rather, is truly a miracle. We're excited for his family and for him to be up and at him. We'll truly see what's going on. Schumacher and his wife and their 2 children, they live in Switzerland, and the accident happened on a family vacation, actually, right around Christmas time there in December, when he was skiing with his 14-year-old son. So very happy to see that he's up and at him, and that everything is at least progressing in a positive direction, and that's what we're truly hoping. Want to shift gears here a little bit, talk about IndyCar again real quick. Cool IndyCar story. Mentioned it actually on the Pit Pass on Monday night, but a little bit more detail here now. According to a number of websites, including the Bristol Motor Speedway, IndyCar driver Graham Rahal actually took a Mustang out onto the racetrack out at the Bristol Motor Speedway on the high banks and took a few laps. Why was he in Bristol? Well, his girlfriend Courtney Force was in Bristol last weekend racing the Thunder Valley Nationals up there, so he got a chance to basically head on over to the big track and get a tour of the world's fastest half mile. And yeah, and he actually brought up this idea, quote, "It'd be fun to get an IndyCar out here and give it a shot. I mean, what a driller it can be there, but it'd be all kinds of fun. With the downforce levels and the horsepower, they can just adjust with the turbos and everything, and they can make this really entertaining and quite an interesting race," unquote. You remember him because the 25-year-old actually explored the possibility of swapping rides with his National Guard NASCAR counterpart, Dale Earnhardt Jr., an idea that was basically taken new life since those laps. He went on to say, quote, "Junior and I talked about it last year. I wasn't with National Guard at the time, but now that I am, maybe it's time It makes more sense for us to do something like that if the opportunity ever came up. Trust me, I jump over it simply because I'm a racer. I want to drive anything that I possibly can and be part of any race at any venue. I could tell you this right off the top of my list after being here and seeing this. It's very, very cool, unquote. That is awesome. He clearly wants to get behind the wheel of a stock car. Whether or not he actually jumps ship, quote-unquote, from IndyCar over into NASCAR like Danica Patrick did is yet to be seen, but I think give the guy a shot. If somebody honestly is standing up saying, I want to do this, let me do this, let him do it. That's pretty damn awesome if you ask me. The fact that he's standing up and saying, yeah, I very much want to get behind the wheel of this race car. Yeah, I want to take laps. He's a racer. He wants to go fast, he wants to be competitive, and he wants to try his hand in NASCAR. I'm not saying as a full-time thing and give up IndyCar. I'm saying he wants to just try it. Same way you or I would want to try a different meal or try a new restaurant or something like that. That's what we're talking about here. But, you know, these guys eat a little bit different food than you and I do, apparently, because he's talking about getting behind the wheel of a stock car at Bristol Motor Speedway, the world's fastest half mile, no big deal. He did take some laps in that Mustang, though, and there's a video up on arnrace.com if you want to check it out. Pretty cool. And the picture that's up with the story is pretty hysterical, if you ask me, because the Bristol Motor Speedway president is standing there in a blue shirt pointing out things of the racetrack and showing him and explaining the racetrack and the history of the racetrack and how to drive it, and Graham is literally staring at the sky. At least that's what it looks like in the photo, but you have to understand, the turns are so large that he's looking at the turn opposite of where he's standing. It just looks like he's looking at the sky, but he's looking at the track. I assure you, that's the effect of Bristol. The reason it's called Thunder Valley is simply because with the mountains surrounding the facilities, when any form of race car starts its engines at that facility, whether it be at the oval or at the dragway, it's heard for miles. It's literally Thunder Valley. Go figure. But it's very cool, nevertheless. Very, very, very cool for Graham. And yes, for my two-wheel cohorts, I'm saying this because truly I've been meaning to talk two-wheeled racing, motocross, but been busy on the show. Lots of other stories going on, and motocross, unfortunately, doesn't get the attention it deserves, but it's getting it here right now. Roxon, pretty darn impressive over the weekend in Lucas Oil Motocross. Yeah, in case you didn't notice, Roxon pretty darn well. Yeah, James Stewart swept the 450 class at High Point in the Moto 450, both those races. And yeah, you go back a couple of weeks, Roxon won at High Point earlier this month, actually, a couple of weeks ago. But honestly, it's one of those things where, honestly, I can't keep my eyes off Roxon. I'm gravitated towards this kid. I don't know if it's because he's a rookie, and I'm honestly, truly amazed to watch him ride. Because truly, when you watch him ride, he rides with the same level of intensity and poise as Villopoto, which makes sense because they're riding partners and they practice together and they have the same coaches. But they're almost clones, which is scary for me because Villopoto is so good. If we see another Villopoto type driver out there, or rider out there rather, what would that be like for the rest of the field? Would they even have a chance? I mean, really? Would they have a chance? I don't know. I really, really don't know. Because Roxon and Villopoto are still in their prime. Villopoto's towards the back end of his prime, frankly, but Roxon has another at least 6-7 good competitive seasons in him. If he takes care of himself, doesn't get injured, knock on wood, then guess what? He's got another 10, 12 years of good riding out of him, at least. It's a possibility, and Roxon is one of those guys that we can honestly see that out of, something we haven't seen in professional Moto or Supercross for a little while now, so we could see it out of Roczen. He drives for Red Bull KTM, factory rider. He's got some really good potential with that race team. The race team is spectacular. They're very stout. They give him what he needs. Honestly, this is the guy that could go out and dominate and actually steal these championships away from Villopoto. So we'll see what happens. Villopoto's sitting out the motocross season, had a surgery. Another rider that's sitting out right now is Justin Barcia. He's having ankle surgery. He's missing the rest of the 2014 Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championship. I'll say this. He posted a photo of what his ankle looked like, and he has since deleted it. Thank goodness. But he posted a photo of what his ankle looked like pre-surgery, and I literally gagged and held down my lunch. It was incredibly disgusting. And I'm a guy who can look at an injury, bent up nose, bloody nose, literally a hole in someone's arm or a finger missing. It happens, unfortunately, off of a rider. And I can go, oh, that's so nasty. Let me see that. Ah! Oh, it's so nasty. Oh, I'm gonna be so. Oh, let me see. Oh yeah. Oh, look at, you can see the bone. Ugh. Ah, so gross. Ah. I'm that guy. I'm the guy who will literally act like he's grossed out and sick, but at the same time I'll be, okay, let me see it though. Oh, that is disgusting. Ugh. But when I saw his ankle, I was holding chunks back. I was holding my lunch down. I was that grossed out by it. Bleh, bleh, for lack of a better term. Bleh. Not good. Not good at all. All right. Got to take a break here. Gonna hold down my lunch. I think I can. I think I can. Gonna talk in the last segment. Gonna talk NASCAR. Heading out to Sonoma over the weekend. The challenges that come with getting a race car ready for a road course, a stock car rather. Gonna talk NHRA this weekend. They're heading out to New England for the Auto Parts NHRA New England Nationals. Going to be previewing that a little bit. Talk to you about one rookie who's heading out there for her second race and what's going on with her. And yes, we will also, I swear, be talking about that really interesting story about the kid who took his girlfriend's Volkswagen Golf out onto a racetrack during a race. And yes, we have the in-car audio. Don't go anywhere. You're listening, or you're shifting gears right here on ARN, the Motorsports Authority.
This is ARN, the American Racing Network.
Okay, so let's say that you're trying to build a website for free on one of these website builders. You go ahead and spend hours uploading your personal information and all of the photos that you've taken of your products, only to find out that you can't bring a .com onto that website without paying a huge fee. And you can't remove those ads without paying a huge fee. And you can't remove all of those pesky "this website was built for free" buttons without paying a huge fee. By the time you've paid all these fees, you've paid thousands of dollars in order to remove all of these pesky ads. Why go through all the hassle? Why spend all of those hours doing it yourself? Go ahead and log on to apolloaesthetics.com, not only to request a quote to build your brand new website and to see a rendering of what your website could look like, but in order to set up services like email, hosting, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram accounts, and a whole lot more. That is Apollo Aesthetics and apolloaesthetics.com.
The Pit Pass.
Is Dale Jr. going to win the championship in 2014? How the hell should I know? I seriously have no idea. This is a new format. You have to not only make the chase, but by the time the chase starts, you have to be perfect in all of those rounds, and by the time you get to Homestead, you have to pretty much go out there and win it. If you have a bad Homestead race, one of those two guys are going to end up going home with the championship. Can Junior do it? I have no idea, but we'll find out.
The Pit Pass, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern on ARN. Shifting Gears on ARN is presented by Stash Feed. Get the feed. Log on to stashfeed.com, your daily manly feed. You're Shifting Gears on ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Here's Alan Bailey.
Okay, so when it comes to NASCAR turning left and right at road courses, by the way, It is the NASCAR Nationwide Series taking to Road America this weekend on Saturday. Sunday, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series heading up to Sonoma, Northern California for wine country. Love Sonoma. Great people, great atmosphere, great track. The area is what it is. I mean, you essentially have literally mountains and wine country surrounding the racetrack. Pretty awesome. And on one side of the racetrack, you have a wasteland. I mean, there's no other way to put it, but if you've ever been up to the area, it's near the Bay Area, and there's a large body of water. I don't want to call it the ocean because it's not. It's more like a giant wasteland where water flows in during high tide and flows out during low tide, and it's a wasteland. So there's realistically only 2 ways into the racetrack, and well, 3 ways actually, from 3 completely different directions. So it gets pretty hairy, and all 3 are 1-lane highways in each direction. So traffic is fun, to say the least, in that area. And if you're heading out to Sonoma this weekend, log on to ARNrace.com. You could check out the traffic situation maps and what NASCAR and the racetrack are doing in order to help you get in and out of the racetrack in a quickly and quiet manner. It literally took me 2 hours to leave that racetrack when I was up there 2 years ago. 2 hours. And keep in mind, I was staying at a hotel that was on MapQuest without traffic. It was a 10-minute drive. Took me 2 hours. And keep in mind, that was about 3 hours after the checkered flag flew. Pretty bad. Ugh. Not looking forward to that for my media friends up there. Sorry, guys. Small price. But looking at everything this weekend for NASCAR, there's a number of different changes that have to happen. Obviously, the fuel intake is moved from the driver's side, the left side, to the right side of the car because everything is they're not. Everything as far as the pit is the same for the most part because they're pitting on the same side. It's when they go up to Watkins Glen that everything is reversed, but and you will see that in the Nationwide Series, moving the fuel intake from the left side to the right side, and essentially everybody pits backwards. You're going to see that in the Nationwide. For the Cup guys, not so much. And what's very interesting about racing in Sonoma is the fact that it's more or less a solo weekend, so you're going to see guys not pulling the double so much. That's why you're seeing a number of drivers essentially driving that K&N Pros East race on Saturday, the Pro West race on Sunday. The drivers who are going to be pulling that double, quote unquote, are Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, Michael Annett, and Ricky Stenhouse this weekend, pulling the double with that NASCAR K&N Pro West race, basically looking for additional road course experience. You look at Larson, he has some, but not a lot. Same thing with same thing with Michael Annett. Austin Dillon does have some road course experience, and same with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but not on this racetrack. Very different road courses from this to what they're used to, so they're just trying to get some experience. But honestly, it's shifting. You're going to need a bigger brake package, obviously. You're going to really need a good shifter, really. This isn't the weekend to go with an experimental shifter. It's to go with the old, reliable, big, bulky one, because although you want to keep the weight down in those cars, you want a big, bulky shifter to grab onto and go, because this is one of those weekends where you're going to be shifting, upshifting, downshifting constantly, and really this race is going to come down to pit strategy. When you pit, some drivers do it on 2 stops, some do it on 3. I saw somebody win it on 4 pit stops one year, but really I think the 2 pit stop strategy will work out, and ultimately it's where you qualify. If you qualify in the top 5, you have a shot at this race. If you qualify in the top 10, you still have a shot. 15, tough day. Top 20, whew, good luck. Top 20, if you don't qualify 25th or better, I really don't think you're going to win that race, period. Because it's such a hard track to pass on. There are passing opportunities, tons of passing opportunities, but it's just so difficult to pass everybody. It's such a short race. You got to be careful. If you're a fan going there for the first time, sit at the top of the hill. Buy a general admission and literally bring a blanket, lawn chairs, whatever. Sit on the hill at the top right there, and you can see a good chunk of the racetrack. You can see down through the S's up until that U-turn, and you can see the start-finish line a little bit, and you lose them right as they get to the top of the hill through the first 3 to 4 turns right there. But really, it's a really great racetrack to go if you're a road course fan. And yeah, there are walkways underneath the racetrack to get you all over the place. Very, very, very cool racetrack. Very cool scenic views, and yes, lots of wine. If you are a wine aficionado, you will love Sonoma Raceway. It is a good weekend. They have lots of wine. I remember one year I went up there a couple of years ago, and honestly, I was up there with a fellow media member who coincidentally now works here at ARN. Neither of us were here at the time. We went up there, and we were literally there Friday covering qualifying, and then all of a sudden, Friday after qualifying, they go, in the media center, they go, okay, we're going to have a wine tasting in just a little bit, so go ahead, head down to Victory Lane, because they're going to have a wine tasting with a gift for the media members. And then they start breaking out bottles of wine. When I say bottles, I mean bottles. Multiple. Lots of wine. I tasted at least 15 different wines that day, and let me put it this way. Not all of us media members ate earlier that day, so by about the 3rd or 4th glass of wine, we were all feeling it. And it was very fun. I very much enjoyed it. And yeah, I got a cool gift. I enjoyed that too. It was fun. And yes, I had the cheese and the crackers and all of the good times up in Sonoma. It truly was a spectacular trip. Great race. That was the race that Clint Boyer won, actually, a couple of years back. His teammate, or then at the time teammate, Martin Truex Jr. won last season, so it was 2 years ago. Wow, it was a while ago. Oy. But it was a good weekend, let me put it that way. On that note, we're going to talk a little, and I'm saying a little because I'm running short on time here, we're going to talk some NHRA. She's making her second trip into New England this weekend. Top Fuel driver Brittany Force. She's having an entirely different look heading into the 2014 Auto Plus NHRA New England Nationals. It takes place this weekend at the historic track located just north of the Boston metro area. Gone are the rookie jitters and the tentativeness, and they're replaced with a little bit of that confidence, aggressiveness, and just the amount of the growing success to basically have a little zip in her step. Force clearly has already made a name for herself and already made a number of final round appearances in her yellow mellow drag racing career this season. She's been the #1 qualifier at 2 of the last 3 events, including the recent one at Bristol last weekend. Now she just has to earn that first victory, and it honestly could happen this week for Force. And yeah, she is the 2013 Automobile Club of Southern California Road to the Future Award winner, and she told NHRA.com, quote, "I'm definitely getting used to this Castrol Edge dragster. I know if the car hasn't done anything to act up on the run, I'll stay in it. I've learned something new every single pass, and each run it's always different. This team is much stronger than it was last year." Todd Smith, who is her crew chief, and the assistant crew chief and the rest of my guys have been doing awesome this season. We've been qualifying great, going rounds, and looking strong, unquote. She has. Honestly, she has that same dominating look that her father has when he was in his super prime. He's not in his super prime, he's in his prime, I think. And yeah, I'm talking about the guy who's in his 60s. So I'm keeping my eye on Brittany this weekend in Top Fuel. I think she could do it. Spencer Massey, Courtney Force, Alan Johnson, John Hall, they're all inaugural winners of the event that exceeded expectations once it was televised. And honestly, the second trip to the New England Dragway marks the 11th of 24 events during the 2014 NHRA season. Brittany Force looking to build on her 8th place point standings position right now. She finished in the top 10, qualifying for the countdown is something that's obviously her goal, but ultimately that first career victory is something she needs. It's something she wants, I think, more than qualifying for the championship and for the countdown. But honestly, I think she's getting it. It's a question of when. I think this weekend her number's going to come up. She's been so damn fast the last, 4 weeks or so. It's a matter of, okay, you're there. Now you just got to do it. That's what it comes down to. And ultimately, I think it's happening this weekend. But time ultimately will tell whether that is true or not. We are winding down on time, so I'm going to remind you, looking at the racing calendar right now on arnrace.com, shifting gears in the books. You can check out the Auto Plus NHRA New England Nationals this weekend out in New England. The Johnsonville Sausage 200 at Road America NASCAR Nationwide Series race coming up on Saturday. Sunday, the Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma. Kind of a thin weekend. I don't want to say it's thin, but it's just there's only three real races going on this weekend, so it's not a bummer, but it's definitely not the same. So, nevertheless, this weekend you're still going to see drag racing all weekend, great racing. You're going to see motocross this weekend. You can check it out on MAV TV this weekend. And, oh yeah, got some NASCAR road course action kicking off summer. The first day of summer, Saturday. Have a good weekend, everybody. I want to say, for everybody here at Shifting Gears and the American Racing Network, I'm Alan Bailey. See you at the track.
Check out arnrace.com to keep up with the latest news, photos, podcasts, and interviews from the track. You've been Shifting Gears on ARN, the American Racing Network.
Broadcasting from the ARN Racing Studios in Southern California, ARN Los Angeles. This is ARN, the American Racing Network.